cults have a way of isolating people from the real world. And growing up in the Shiny Happy People cult, I experienced that to an extreme degree. But once I got out of the cult at 18 years old, I realized that getting used to real life has its own set of challenges. My guest today had a similar experience growing up in the Mormon church. Steve Cantwell and I met 2 or 3 years ago, I think, doing a comedy show. And he told me a story that shocked me so much, I still don't know what to believe. Steve, thanks so much for joining me today, man. How are you?
My pleasure. Yeah, we met a couple of years ago. You had Josh Adam Myers out for one of your shows,
That's
and
right.
he had me open for him. And Josh and I know each other from the Crab Feast,
Yeah.
and he was on your podcast after in that bus or something, right?
Yeah, that weird bus thing.
With a bunch of your friends, which was a fun hang. And then we were all kind of just sitting around on that podcast telling stories, and Josh is like, Steve's got a crazy story.
Dude, it's the wildest thing I think I've ever heard. You have a series of just unbelievable stories, and I can't wait to get into this one. But I did want to talk a little bit about Mormonism first, because you grew up in the church, right?
I grew up in the church, 7th generation Mormon. My family were in it since the very beginning, both sides, mom's side and dad's side. Literally, came out in the wagon trains that came west before there was a road there, had Indian battles, and then proceeded to intermarry for the next 7 generations. Like, I don't even have a knuckle right here. I'm so inbred that I have a semi-opposable thumb. It doesn't go all the way over. It's a straight bone right there. It's like half simian.
That's because brothers and sisters and cousins getting married and having babies?
Sure. There was like 120 families that came out there as a part of this little cult, and you can only marry other people that are Mormons. I broke the mold a little bit. I went to an Eskimo Village and got married, but you're not supposed to do that. But mostly, like, my brothers are all still married to the same, like, the only girl that they have ever seen naked. And, just like, and if you trace their family tree back far enough, our family's been married time and time again.
Oh my God, dude. Except you, who went to an Eskimo village.
Yeah.
Dude, your life has been just a series of the craziest stuff I've ever heard. You were also the first person to tell me about soaking. I didn't know about soaking until I met you. And you had some experience with that growing up, right?
Well, listen, in their effort to keep you from being obsessed with sex, they don't let you do anything to do with sex, and that makes you obsessed with sex. People with regular hormones are obsessed anyway, but if you make it a taboo also, so you can't just go fuck a girl and then think about someplace else and go out with your friends and ride dirt bikes. You have to spend hours rubbing your dick around the outside. Hours, dude. I used to sneak into a girl's house during high school. For years I did this, and we would never have sex. We never had sex the entire time that I knew her. It was just all games where you're skirting around the fringes so that you're not actually having sex, what you in your head think people do when they have sex. So you get into all this other kinky shit around it. Like soaking, where it's just like, and it's way hotter. It's way hotter than just whatever clumsy sex everybody else is having when they're teenagers.
It's just edging. That's really all it is.
It's like just edging.
Tantric type stuff.
It's tantric. Yes, it's tantric. Literally, your is resting on their G-spot for 9 hours, and everybody's just sweating and trying not to move. And
9 hours, Steve? You were doing 9 hour soaks?
Dude, long. All night long.
Dude.
All night long soaks.
Did you ever climax during these sessions?
No, because that's coming and that's bad.
My God. So, I mean, just the bluest balls you could ever imagine.
The truest, bluest stainless steel balls. And you go home and you're angry and you get into fist fights at school. This was the 80s, and that was just a thing, and everybody was not coming at this high school. So it was just like, you could strike fire in any direction. You give somebody a fake look, and they're just fucking on. It was fist fighting was very popular.
Oh, it's just
in
a
my little
hormonal
valley.
ticking time bomb for y'all.
Yeah, you're not even masturbating, so you're that's forbidden. If you can stop masturbating, you're rimming around the edge of madness after a certain amount of time. It makes it so you only always think about sex.
Right. So you get married young and start having babies as quickly as possible.
As quickly as possible.
Uh-huh. Dude, it was the same thing growing up in the shiny happy people cult. We weren't supposed to, obviously premarital sex was a huge no-no. We weren't even supposed to kiss before marriage. And really in the purity culture, we weren't even supposed to touch at all. I mean, y'all threw that one right out the window though.
We weren't supposed to be doing any of this shit, but if you f***ed a girl, she would absolutely have to go to her bishop and tell her bishop that you guys f***ed, because if she didn't, she would go to hell and never see her family again.
Right, yeah.
So if you f***ed her, you would never see her again, because the bishop would just step in and say you were not even allowed to talk to each other. The bishop would basically step in and break you up. But if you did everything but she could, and sometimes including butt
I was about to say, the poop hole loophole,
yeah. So, if you did everything but that, she never had to go to her bishop and confess. Her bishop, by the way, was her dad. So literally, she would have had to go and tell her dad. Wow. He ran, dude. I don't want to get too specific because she's a private person, and I don't want to say too many details. So in your editing, edit anything out that may lead to her identity whatsoever.
Yeah, no problem.
Let's just say these stories that I'm telling are an amalgam of people that, sometimes one person may represent an experience I've had with 4 or 5 people, not meant to represent a specific person.
Yeah, for legal reasons, this was a lot of people, not one specific person. Yeah. Did any of the stuff that you did, the edging, the tantric stuff, did any of that carry over into your married relationship? Like, did you have just a bunch of weird kinks once you got married?
Well, it was weird in that she was not Mormon. So she was just the hottest girl in this Eskimo village. So just not somebody who, you're not using your brains when you're like, I'm away from home for the first time. I haven't been masturbating. I've been rubbing my dick around on some girl's legs.
Real clogged up.
Yeah, I'm real clogged up. And I'm away from home for the first time. And this girl, we end up talking at a basketball game. And I'm like, we should go, start making out and stuff like that, like I had with the Mormon girls, where everybody's got brakes on their go-kart, and so we start making out, and then and then she just, I think we're gonna edge or rub it around the outside, and she just sits on it and starts.
And did you freak out? You just lost it. No, my purity.
Oh, no. And she says, we're doing it anyway. You're already going to hell. We might as well finish. So, so we were, and the next day, I went to the Eskimo everything store, and I bought a $29 thin gold ring, and I proposed to her, and we got married that next day. The next day.
What? So you lost your virginity, proposed the next day, and then got married the following day.
Got married the same day that I proposed.
Oh, the same day. This happened in 2 days.
In Alaska, there's no preachers or anything, because remember, you're in the middle of the woods, Davey. There's nothing like a preacher man that you can go to. So literally what you do when you're in the bush is there's a fax number on the bulletin board at the post office, and you send a fax to Juneau saying, me, your full name, and this, girl I met in an Eskimo village, her full name, are getting married today. Make a note of that.
So you had a fax order bride?
I didn't even fax anything back. You use the receipt as your marriage certificate.
What?
So the fax machine at the post office spits out a receipt. You laminate that, and you're married.
Whoa! And I mean, you said she was the hottest girl in the Eskimo village.
Yeah.
But like
There was 3 or 4
normal
of them.
1 to 10 scale, I mean, what are we talking here, Steve? Like once you got back to the mainland.
Eskimo Village, 10.
Okay.
Guys were fighting over that she got with me because I had a return ticket in my pocket, basically.
Gotcha.
I worked at a radio station up there, which is Eskimo Village famous.
Yeah,
really.
Of course.
And
You were
so
a celebrity,
so she was getting the fuck out of Dodge, I think, in her mind. That's what she was thinking, because she could have had anybody. She was in the clan of the Cave Bear. She had the most beads on her necklace. So she was an Eskimo Village 10 and probably a real world. I'm going to be honest here. I'm not going to. I'd say a good solid 4.
Oh, wow.
No, but that's not bad. Listen, I'm not a handsome man.
But you're funny, Steve. And so you could have a real world 7 or 8 probably.
Sure.
And instead, because she finally relieved all that pressure in your penis, you went ahead and committed to the 4.
Yeah. She tricked me.
She did. She got you good.
As if she was a hypnotist. She tricked me.
I know that there's like a period of time where you move back to the mainland, you start your own business, but at some point you ended up back in Alaska. And that's the part of the story that I want to get to. But tell me a little bit how you went from living in the lower 48 to back in Alaska, because that part's crazy too.
So me and my village bride, we ended up I went to Orlando because I heard that the economy was very good in Orlando, and I had previously owned a little janitorial company in the Eskimo Village, and also a little bit in Utah where I grew up. So I knew I wanted to go into the janitorial business for some reason, and because I told myself there was no money in radio. So, and if there isn't,
I mean, great call, because I worked in radio briefly and made $0. Yeah. So you were right.
So saved up my money and bought a franchise of a national, janitorial company. So you were one of thousands of those little franchises, but I bought one in Orlando, and then just proceeded to build a little janitorial business for myself. Handful of employees. Most of them were Haitian dudes, so nice. It'd just be me and a pickup truck full of Haitian dudes cruising through Orlando in the middle of the night.
What'd your village wife think of the Haitian guys?
She liked them. I mean, they were some of them were nice, some of them were, dangerous, but sure. But that's true of everybody.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mormon women aren't allowed to work outside the home, so her job was 100% just to stay home and have kids. But it's the man who has to work.
So she became a part of the Mormon faith.
Yeah, she joined. I was like, "Do you want to know anything about it?" And she's like, "No." Surprised me, So the missionaries came over, gave her the fewest number of lessons that they were allowed to before they could actually baptize her. And within a couple of days, she was baptized and committed for time and all eternity. And then
she wanted to get out of that village bad.
Yes, yeah. She was not dying in the woods.
Like, I don't care. It's whatever y'all are teaching is better than living out here.
That's what we did, and I worked my ass off, and I was happy, and I would come home on my bride and hang out with my kids.
Your ugly hot wife.
Yeah, and go to Mormon church, and I had a job in the Mormon church, and I started being like a Sunday school teacher, and just every job. I worked my way up into kind of their leadership group, and so everything was going well with church. I was making good money with the janitorial business, and then this guy approached me on the street. He's like, "Hey, I just got out of the Navy, and I got some money from separation. I want to invest. I want to get into the janitorial business, but I don't know anything about it. So, you know, could I buy half your janitorial business? And I was like, yes. That we talked about that a little bit, but it was getting too big for me to handle.
Yeah.
Also, Orlando was dangerous. Like I had just recently gotten duct taped up and put on the floor during a robbery at a restaurant. Yeah, and helped the guys. Ended up helping the guys like figure out how to get this giant safe out of the restaurant as a way to ingratiate myself to not get shot, because they were shooting people and they were like this crew had been going to different restaurants, and then they would come in, they would duct tape up whoever was at the restaurant, the cleaning crew or whatever, drag them into the walk-in where it was quiet and shoot them all in the back of the head, and then take the safe take the whole safe out of the
But were you working in the restaurant or just a casual diner?
I was cleaning it.
Oh, you were cleaning the restaurant. Okay.
Yeah, my janitorial company was cleaning it actually, and so the crew of Haitian guys that worked for me had come through, but this was in the days before there were cell phones and you could check up on people. So I had to go through the city of Orlando to all the different places that we cleaned and make sure that everybody showed up, everything got cleaned, everything looks good, so that we're not going to get fired. Quality control shit. So I'm doing that with my little brother, who just got back from his Mormon mission one night. We're walking to this place in Winter Park, Florida called the Briar Patch, and go in the back door, check and make sure everything got clean. Everything looks good. We just come on our way back out, open up the door, and there's a bunch of dudes in ski masks holding guns to our heads.
Whoa.
And they bring us back into this restaurant. We're freaking out because we don't expect this. When somebody points a gun in your face, the only thing you see is that barrel.
Oh yeah, you just kind of black out a little bit.
Yeah, and then also we've been reading about this in the news. It's the terror of janitorial companies all over Orlando that there's this group of dudes out there ganking cleaning crews. So we're like, oh shit, the worst thing has just happened. We just got caught by the vampire. So we know we're about to get dragged into the meat locker and shot while these heads take the safe out of the place. So. And they start duct taping us up, drag us over to the thing. They take everything. They go into our pockets, seeing if we have any money or anything like that. And meanwhile, the two of them are over there, and the safe is like from cowboy and Indian days. It was like gigantic, and so they couldn't lift it, and they couldn't. And the little they had brought over a dish cart because that's what they had used at other robberies to get it out, but it was too big and it was squashing the dish carts. And I could see them I was like duct taped up on the floor, and I could see them through a slit in my eyes. And while they were duct taping us up, and I said, "Hey, sir, if you don't shoot us, I will tell you how to get the safe out of here." And he just stops, and he said, "What?" And I said, "Down at the Gap, two doors down, there's a gigantic freight dolly that we use when we pull the ovens away from the wall. And it's just right behind the dumpster. If you go get that, you can strap that big safe on there, and it would handle it no problem." And he doesn't say a word. He just stands up he was kind of sitting on the small of my back, and he stands up, and he just walks away, and he goes and talks to the other guys. They don't say anything, but through a slit in the duct tape, I can see their feet walk out the restaurant, and then I see two of them come back with this dolly, just exactly where I told them it would be. They spend a few minutes. They strap this huge fucking safe on there, tip it back, no problem, like a vending machine, and just you can take it right out. They don't say shit to me. We don't even know we're gone. They don't say goodbye. They don't say thank you. Nothing.
They just leave you duct tape on the floor?
Me and my brother duct taped on the floor next to the walk-in freezer where we would have gotten shot. And they never caught. They got away clean because of me. That dolly gave them no problems. Loaded it right into their truck, and they never caught them. The owner told me there was like $70,000 in there.
70 grand in that
old-timey safe. It was New Year's Eve that this happened. So it was a huge night. So they picked the night to do it. So they got the New Year's
these were
Eve
smart thieves. They knew exactly what they were doing. But it just goes to show, don't be a hero. You know,
Don't be a hero. It's
don't
not
do
your
it,
money.
because you could have tried to fight him or something, and you would have ended up dead in the walk-in freezer.
Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can't beat him, join him, Steve. I think that's the lesson here.
And you might as well take your shot, because the other way you're going to get dragged. The worst they can't shoot you in the head twice. Right.
This is just another example of some of the crazy experiences you've had. And once we get to the main story, it's going to make so much sense to everyone watching this, why it's like, well, which one do I believe? Which version of your life do I believe? So you have this wild run-in with these murderous safe robbers, but that still isn't as crazy as the story of how you ended up back in Alaska.
Right. Well, the safe robber story kind of goes to why I accepted that guy's offer when he offered to buy half the company, because that had just happened to me. So
Right.
I was freaked the fuck out. And also, he was like this badass. So I was like, that might be nice to have like a former Green Beret or whatever be my partner, because who else would be better to handle this? And also, the Haitian employees were always like almost rioting all the time and never understood like their pay periods, and just were constantly. Guy brought a machete one time. So the Haitian employees, there was at one point 30 something of them, and they like it was trouble. So I was hoping that he would help with that too. So I took him up on it after very short amounts of negotiation.
All right.
And then that was it. We were off to the races. We were doing janitorial together. First red flag that I ever had was that shortly after we had begun, like 2 months into our janitorial partnership together, first of all, he laid waste to those Haitians. He went in there and just brawled with them. Like the first time one of them was like tried to get in his face about like my check is short, he just beat the shit out of this dude on the loading dock in front of all the took all comers, just like took off his shirt and just started beating Haitian guys like a movie. And it was like literally he had been in the business with me a week and just
well, I mean,
like,
Stevie had to establish dominance.
I should have known I was in trouble that day. I should have ran. That was probably the last point that I could have gotten out clean. It's if I had just been, you know what, I should have just left and not just thrown my phone number away and just started a new life right then. But 2 months in, he got he went to court. I didn't know he was in trouble, but he had got caught trying to murder his former business partner, a guy that he had come and bought half of his janitorial company, and then he tased the guy, beat the guy over the head with his metal can, and then wrapped him up in a painter's tarp and put him in his truck, and was taking him out to the Everglades when he got pulled over by the cops because they saw his partner wasn't dead. They put his hand up over the tailgate, and the cops saw somebody's hand over the tailgate and pulled him over out of curiosity and caught him with an unconscious business partner, badly beaten in the head, dude headed out to the Everglades. So they try him for attempted murder, and he gets a good lawyer. And I don't know any of this is happening, but he gets a good lawyer, but he plea bargains and down to grievous bodily injury or something like that. Whatever the step down from attempted murder is, pays the guy's, hospital fees because he was in intensive care for a long time, and a bunch of fines and shit like that, and has to do a little bit of jail time for it. So he tells me a couple months in, hey, I have to go to jail for a little while. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I got into a fight, and I got the best of the guy because of my training, and really beat the shit out of him. So I have to go serve like, I forget what it was, 6 months or something like that.
He couldn't really tell you. The last janitorial company I tried to buy, I nearly killed my business partner.
Yes.
So you're number two.
Yeah.
You were his second choice after he tried pulling a fast one on his first business partner.
Yeah. I'm lucky number two.
Wow.
So he goes away for 6 months, comes back. Maybe it's not even 6 months. I can't remember how long he was gone, but he was gone for a while because he had to serve time for the last dude. Comes back, but trying to ingratiate himself to me. He's working with me. You know, you spend a lot of time with somebody when you work with them, and you get to you tell each other stories. And he tells me stories of the military killing people, and he starts telling me stories about. And I think he's just like trying, because he clearly enjoys me, you know, impressing this little Mormon guy,
right? Yeah.
Just came from an Eskimo village with his exploits, you know, in Panama. So he loves telling me stories, starts telling me stories about fighting people and hurting them, then starts telling me stories about fighting people and killing them. And I think my bullshit detector starts to go off. I'm like, this guy just likes telling me stories. So, you know, I'm not trying to solve any fucking mysteries. We're just trying to keep a janitorial business afloat. You know, so I just let him talk. I think I know he's clearly a fucking maniac because he had to just serve jail for beating some guy up. So
and fought all the
I just let
Haitian
him
guys
talk.
too.
Yes. So I just let him talk. I just try to overcome being his partner, basically. So he then doesn't get as much of a rise out of me. So he starts telling me more and more stories. So he starts telling me about times that he killed homeless people, and he starts telling me times that he killed somebody in a bar because he kind of looked like him, and he took his ID, and then he basically opened a checking account with that guy's ID in his wallet, and then
What?
went to a tool rental company and rented backhoes and trailers and shit like that in this dead guy's name, and then took him back to Florida and sold him to a chop shop, you know, before anybody even knew this dude was dead. So he's up in the ante, and I am still thinking, well, he's telling me stories. So I just like, oh, that's crazy. Well, all right. Well, hey, hand me that pail of stripper. You know, we got to get this floor stripped. I always just pivot back to Jim. I change the subject because I think that he's full of shit.
But he's
So
giving
then
you
he
like
starts.
some very specific, detailed stories.
Yeah, yeah, very detailed stories. Nothing that I could find anything. Remember, this is the infancy of the internet.
Right.
It's not like I could check any of this shit out. So somebody could just tell you they're a Navy SEAL, and you kind of got to take their word for it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just based upon whether or not their stories seem right, or whether. But I'm thinking, like, I've known this dude for like 6 months. Why is he? No, if he was really killing people, he would not tell me that he was killing people. I've known me
He'd
six
be
months. I'm his
crazy
work friend.
to share all
Yes,
this stuff with me.
yes. He doesn't know me like that. So then he tells me that he killed his mother-in-law. Then he tells me one that's very specific. He tells me that he killed his mother-in-law, and tells me all the details of how he did it. And I was just like, that's crazy, you know. That's terrible. And I did what I always did, and I just pivoted away from that story. And he would just tell me more and more details, and then he would not shut up about having killed his mother-in-law. To where it's the thing that he would you could almost count on the fact that he was going to bring it up.
Had you met his wife
So
at this point?
yeah, yeah,
Did his wife seem normal?
yeah,
Whoa.
yeah. The reason he killed his mother-in-law is because she told him that she had a life insurance policy in his wife's name, and she didn't, which is why the cops never looked at him as a suspect. His mother-in-law had been lying about having it just as a control tactic, but then he had told me that as part of the story, basically, because he knew that that's why the cops never looked at him, is because she had been lying. And then at one point he asked me if he said, I think it would be a good idea because you and I are so integral to the business if we got life insurance
Oh
policies
boy.
on each other. And that way it would give us a chance to replace
If
each
one of
other.
us
But
happens to die.
If God forbid one of us falls into a wood chipper kind of thing. No, he's like if one of us dies, it's not going to happen. But I saw an ad for it and I answered it, and the rates are actually pretty reasonable.
What a businessman!
Yeah,
what a CEO!
Yeah.
Wow.
And I said to him, I said, I know that you're obsessed with life insurance about your mother-in-law and stuff like that. And I said, and if you're planning on killing me, and if any of this shit is true, just keep in mind that maybe I might have told somebody. I basically had a brief conversation with him, like, hey, I see you, mother. Don't. That's you're trying to fuck. If you're thinking about trying to kill me, you better think again, kind of thing. And I hang up the phone, and the more I think about it, I'm like, that mother. He could be telling the truth about all this shit.
All these stories, there might be some accuracy there.
Yeah. So there's this moment where I like I think back on all the stories, and I'm like, well, I've got to find out some way if any of this is true.
Yeah.
So the day after Thanksgiving, I call the Yellow Pages for private detectives, and I catch one that's in the office. And I was like, hey, I need help on something. I need to come down and talk to you right now. And he's like, okay. So I drive to his office. I sit down with him. I tell him this story, and the whole thing. And I'm like, and the mother-in-law. So the mother-in-law is a real person. We can find. I said, can you see if some woman, I don't know the city, was murdered in this very specific way? Because this guy had been a homicide detective in New York when I met, so he knew how to find this shit out. And he said, yes, I'm your man. And so I leave, and I don't know how long that thing was supposed to take, so I just wait. It's just like the days before. Seems like the cowboy and Indian days, but you just wait for somebody to call you back. And a few days later, these murder detectives from Cincinnati knocked on my door, and they're like, hey, we need you to come down. We need you to come down and answer some questions about why you know so much about this unsolved murder that none of this shit was in the paper. And I was like, happy to help you. Let's go. So we go down to the station. I tell them this story all night until the sun comes up in the morning. They polygraph me. They voice stress analysis test me. They like, okay, so we, obviously your business partner is a piece of shit.
Well, he's a serial killer.
Yeah. So we're gonna get him. So they said, you could tell him that you're going to sell him the rest, because they're going to need to put me someplace.
Yeah.
They're like, he's there's no physical evidence that he did this. It's only the fact that he told you shit that isn't in the newspaper.
You're the star witness.
Yeah. So if something happens to you, we basically fucked the city of Cincinnati out of, maybe $1 million for a capital murder trial, and we're not doing that if one of his army buddies could just come over and put a pillow over your head.
Right.
And they're like, we need some place that we can send you. And we're the city of Cincinnati, so it's not like the federal government where we're going to set you up with a fucking job or give you any kind of
new identity, all that fun stuff, like a racketeering
so we
witness.
Can help you. Yeah, we can help you do some things. Like we'll give you. They got me like a Teflon license, where if I got pulled over for a speeding ticket, when they run my license, they would be in the comment section. It would just say "Do not cite," and then as per, Cincinnati Police Department or Hamilton County, whatever it was. And then the officer would just say, "Have a nice day," and the people in Cincinnati say hi. Is what they would say. They would say something like that. But so they did that for me. They helped me rent my house, and basically they sat in the district attorney set, helped me find a just basically we went to one of the big real estate companies and said, this is what's happened. He has to leave. He's rent this house. He's not going to be able to call or have any contact with you. So here's his mortgage book. You just have to pay the mortgage and rent his house, and then he'll be back when the trial's over. But they said, you're going to need some money to get you started up there. So what if you told him you wanted to sell the other half of the business for whatever money he has, And they said, and just, he's going to prison for the rest of his life. So you can just ask for the cars and just everything, just negotiate as much as you possibly can. And here's the reason why they did that, because they wanted me to tap him out so that when he was facing a capital murder trial, he would get a public defender.
Right.
And then they would stomp that public defender. And that's pretty much what happened.
Wow.
And they said, and we will use that opportunity when he gives you that money to arrest him. So that's exactly what we did. They sat on their hands for a couple of days. I was just like, I have an emergency. I'm not living here anymore. I'm having panic attacks because of the robbery. Whatever you can, you and I are not getting along. I've got paranoid feelings like you're going to kill me, shit like that. You can have the business. Whatever you've got. How much cash have we got? He told me how much cash he's got. And I was like, that's not, how much cash could you get from your mom? And calls me. His mom was our accountant, basically. So she tells him how much money she's got. And I'm like, well, that's not enough. What about your truck? Is that paid off? So his truck was paid off. So what about your wife's truck? No, it's not paid off. We're upside down on that one. I was like, okay, so deal of a lifetime. You're going to get the whole business on your own. It's a much better deal than the half that he bought from me already. So I get all of his money, all of his mom's money, the money he borrowed from his mom, and his pickup truck. He meets me over at this restaurant. I shake his hand. I get the money. He hands me the keys to the truck, signs the title over. I drive away, and I watch in my rearview mirror as the police department descends upon this restaurant and arrests him.
As you're leaving, that's how they made the arrest?
That's how they knew where he would be.
No way.
Yeah. They basically used that as a meat.
So at this point, you've got to get out of town.
The next day.
The next day.
I go home. Yes. We're already packed, because it's been a couple of days now since they sat me down. They sat on their hands for a couple of days. So we just basically have a big garage sale and give it all away. And then we've got all this money that he just gave us and the money that he gave us 6 months ago. So he just bought himself a janitorial company that's going to crash into the side of a mountain.
Yeah.
And they send us to Alaska. They flew my family up. I drove my van and my I've always been a van guy, and pulled my little Toyota pickup truck on a trailer up there, all the way up from Florida up the Alaskan highway to Anchorage. This time we didn't go to the Eskimo Village.
Yeah,
that was
too many memories there. Hard. Obviously, yeah,
it's just too hard. But give me someplace with a McDonald's, So went to Alaska. They helped us set up our utilities so that they weren't in our name, and a few little things like that. But then we just sat there. We lived off the money that he gave us. We just flew back and forth for like grand jury testimonies and stuff like that while they went through the process of the murder trial, and that took I forget how long, couple of years really. And I bought a couple of acres of property way outside of town, in the willy wags, because I was still super paranoid, because they were like, okay, so we don't need you anymore. We got him, good job. And, of course, he'll file for appeals. This could all, he can get out and come murder you
anytime he wants. Yeah, exactly.
Anytime he wants, but, let us know, we'll let you know if he ever escapes from prison. And so I was paranoid as a motherfucker, so I just went out into the woods, like back up against a national park where there was no houses behind me. And I just built kind of I buried a rail car underneath. I built the kind of house. I built a bunker underneath my house. Yeah. I built a safe room bunker that was accessible by a slippery slide that you could get to from the master bedroom or one of the kids' bedrooms. So I built, if you walk through that house, you could say, the person that built this house was afraid of something.
Oh, well,
because there were
and justifiably
places
so.
where
It's just
shotguns.
hilarious
Yeah,
that you made your safe house accessible by theme park ride. That's
yeah,
hysterical.
yeah, but through a secret place that nobody knew where it was.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Scooby-Doo stuff. So yeah, just stayed up there after the murder trial. There was nothing to come back. I've still never been to Orlando since. That was the last when I walked out of town in 94 or something like that. That was the last time I've been to Orlando. So I just bought the property. You don't have to have anything like building permits or anything like that up there. You just can go to town. So I just like rented a bulldozer, bulldozed all the trees down, and just built a house and lived in a tent and sometimes a van on the property with my family while I did it in the
In
middle of
Alaska?
Alaska. Yeah, yeah. Bears
What?
coming through and eating the dogs, ate our goat.
They ate your dog?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We lost a lot of dogs to bears. That's you have to have a dog up there, otherwise the bears will eat your kid.
You didn't tell me this part of the story the first time.
Oh no, Alaska. Living in the willy wags of Alaska is a whole tap dance because you have to have a dog because the dog will tell you when there's a bear sneaking up on you. So the bear will go and fight. The dog will go and fight the bear. Loses every time.
Oh my God, that's awful.
Yeah, it's a perfect record with no. You don't come back
undefeated for the Bears.
Yeah, but it gives you a chance to get your kids in the house and to get your gun and to shoot the bear, and that kind of thing happened all the time because we were like in it.
How many dogs did you go through, Steve?
Lots, bro.
Oh my God, oh, that makes me so sad.
We named them all Tex. That's how long. That's how many dogs we had.
Tex 1 through 20.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, a bear ate my friend's baby on a berry picking thing.
What?
Just they ganked a jogger. People get killed by bears all the time up there. They're monsters, dude. I fucking hate bears. They're monsters.
Oh my God.
And they eat people.
Ate a baby?
Yeah, and didn't make a sound. They were picking blueberries and they heard a noise of something running away from them. And then they looked back and their baby was gone. So it had to have been a bear.
Fuck, dude. So
the bears are
where
aliens.
You now live in this crazy Wild West outlaw country.
Yeah. So I'm out there building the house in the woods. You save up money for the concrete, and then you set the forms yourself, and you have books that show you how to do everything, and you ask people, and so it takes a long time for me to build this house. It takes like 10 years maybe to build this house, a long time, because I'm doing it myself, except for just a few helpers that we would hire to do heavy stuff, like rafters and stuff like that. But basically just fucking gutting it out,
10-year process to build this house, all the while living out of tents and vans. I mean, your poor Eskimo Village wife thought she was escaping from that life by marrying you, and now she's just right back in it. Right back at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Pregnant up there helping me, in an unfinished house, holding the other side of the board.
Wow.
Like, she was tough.
Who played who in
that way? Yeah.
Because she thought she was getting you way back in the Inuit village, and then you really got her back with this whole witness protection thing.
You know what that's called? That's called karma.
That's right. Eskimo karma.
It'll dump you off in a deeper place than where you started. Yeah, so we built this house, Mormoned it up. I was a Mormon elders quorum president, living that Mormon life, wearing magic underwear, going to church every day, praying morning, noon, and night. Keeping all the rules. And Mormons aren't allowed to drink coffee or alcohol, so I'd never, that was never my thing. But I made friends with some people Now, our nearest neighbors were not close in Alaska, and especially that part of Alaska. Things are kind of spread out, but the neighbors that were closest to us was a young family, and this dude was, an Army Ranger. That were stationed up there,
Okay.
and just a super badass. Right? I love this guy. Like he would tell me stories about, and this was like during the wars happened, and he was like tip of the spear, and he was just like he was the guy that you play when you play a video
But
game.
also your last experience with a
Sure.
special ops
Yeah,
guy was not great.
sure. Yeah,
This didn't
yeah.
give you
I don't know why I
PTSD at all?
attract him. I think I must be attracted to that kind of person. But I fucking loved my friend in Alaska. But he had tons of stories, but they weren't psycho stories. They were like real stories of cool shit that he did. And he did some cool shit. And we would fly little helicopters together, and like these little remote control helicopters and little remote control airplanes, and build them together, and we just hang out all the time. And his kid was the same age as my kids, and so we would just Christmas with them all the time, and they were just our best friends up there. And he had been gone. And so over the years, we got close. He couldn't ever smoke weed or do drugs or anything like that because he was in the Army and they tested him. But I would to ask him story because before he was in the Army, he had been a normal person that had gone out there and done normal shit, like had smoked weed before, and I was curious about all that stuff. So when we would be sitting and talking, I would ask him questions about what's marijuana like, and alcohol, what's that like, and just that kind of thing. So he would tell it to me, and he was fascinated by my crazy upbringing because it was so different than his upbringing in the Army. Basically, he joined the Army right out of high school, so he'd been in the Army for 20 years or some goddamn thing. And but so one time he had been at war for a long time, and it had been rough on him. He'd lost a lot of friends and shit like that. And he's like, some of the guys that I don't know what the terminology is, unit or whatever, I've been talking about this shit that's not marijuana, but it's like marijuana, but it's like fully legal. And he's like, if you want, and I'm going to surprise my family, I'm going to be back on Christmas this year. So if you want to, you could apparently just go down to any head shop and get this fully legal thing. And you could get us a big ass bong, and it's not against the Mormon church rules, and it's not against the Army's rules. So, that could be our present to each other, as I could finally show you what it's like. They said it's pretty close to marijuana, so let's make that our present to each other. And I said, perfect, I will get it all. So I went to the head shop, and I got the biggest, craziest bong that they had. I got fucking blowtorch to light it, and I just went all out, every crazy thing, because it was our present to him, and I'd missed him. I hadn't seen him for a long time, so I wanted to kind of go all out. And then to the guy working the register is like, and then my friend told me about this stuff. It's not marijuana. It's like fully legal. And she goes, Salvia?
Oh no.
And because I don't know, and I'm just to a certain extent just trying to bullshit my way through this head shop per transaction, I'm just like, yeah, Salvia.
That must be
and
what it is.
She's like, yeah. Well, she says, well, we have different strengths. We've got the 10 times, the 20 times, the 30 times, and the 100 times. And I'm like, I'm like, well, let's get the strongest one, because I don't want to come up like a pussy.
Obviously,
this is my badass friend. Yeah, I don't want to go small dicked to my special forces friend Christmas present. So we get the strongest one, ring it up, take it home, wrap it up, put it in his gun room down in his basement with a big bow on it that says, had both of our names on. And then he came home, surprised everybody. Our families come down and have Christmas together, which we normally would do.
Right.
But so we were all, the kids opened the presents, and he and I sneak downstairs, and I'm like, I've got our present downstairs. So we go down there into his gun room while the kids are opening their presents, open up this big bong. He shows me how to load it up with water and shit like that. And we take this Salvia out. I pack the bowl, and I'm like, I'll go first, because I want to seem like I'm not I'm brave.
Right. Yeah.
I think
I'm not a
is
square. I
I
can
have
do
often
this.
asked myself, why did I go first? I have like. So I load this giant bowl piece with like half the pack of that
Of the 100
100X.
times salvia.
Yeah,
Oh
it was
God.
black. It was jet black, and then just practiced taking a draw a few times before I lit it, just so that I could kind of see what the
Like a
movement was.
nerd.
And he said,
Yep.
and he's like, and I'm just he's just like, you just want to like as much as you can all at once, and then hold it for as long as you can. So that's what I do. I hit this thing with a micro torch. Biggest hit that I fill this giant bong, take the bowl piece off, all that shotguns into my lungs, and I remember the world opened up under me. Like it was like a pit opened up under me, and I started to fall, and I dropped everything I was holding, and I trying to grab around his neck so that I wouldn't fall through the floor. But I missed, and I just fell through the floor, and I just kept falling and falling and falling, and then came out, and I was on the deck of this little water ski boat in the middle of a lake, and it wasn't wintertime, it wasn't Christmas, it was sunny and warm, and I was coughing up water, and there were a bunch of dudes around me kind of shaking me and fussing with me, and they like got me up and were pounding on my back, and they're like, holy shit, we thought we lost you there for a second. And I'm looking around, and I don't know any of them. I'm on a water ski boat with like a too tight life jacket and still coughing and stuff like that. But like, it seems real. It seems like as real as like the boat feels like the boat and the water feels like the water. And I really feel like I'm coughing up fucking lung here. And I'm like, and I sit down and I'm like, this is amazing. and And then all of my friends like get like all the people around me just like stop talking, and they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "This is amazing." I'm touching them and stuff like that, and so I think that that's what being on marijuana is like.
You
So
transport to
that
this other world.
I get, because nobody can really explain it to me. I was like, I see why kids fucking do this.
Yeah.
This is like, it's summertime, and I've got these non-player characters all around me, that are like what the so I'm laughing, I'm like touching the thing, and then like my friends are like start talking to me, and I don't know who any of them are on this little water ski boat, so they like get worried that I don't remember anything, and so they rush me to this like walk-in clinic, like it's like an emergency room not attached to a hospital,
Urgent care type facility.
Urgent care, yeah. So they take me to this urgent care. They didn't even put the boat on the trailer. That's how big of a hurry they thought it was. They just basically side tied it to the dock, and just we all piled into the truck, and they took me to urgent care. So they're like, hey, this is my friend, we were water skiing, he went down and was face down when we got the boat back to him, and he was out for a little while, but now he's conscious, but he doesn't remember any of us or any of that. And so the doctor asked me a bunch of questions, and some of them I knew, and some of them I didn't know, and tested my reflexes, shined a flashlight in my eye, and it basically tells them, his pulse oxygen looks good, and there's no sound in his lungs, and he doesn't remember who any of you are, and thinks he lives in Alaska, and that he's in witness protection. But so I think maybe he just got his bell rung. He tells them essentially that true medical amnesia really isn't a thing, no matter what they use it as a plot on soap operas all the time, but it's almost unheard of. So that the fact that I'm just going to forget them all is not. He says like he just his brain's kind of given a hard restart. Just take him home. He'll be fine by morning probably. Let me know if he's not. So they take me to an apartment where I apparently live. Which I'm unaware of. They use keys that are in my jeans to open the door. And I go in, and they basically are like, "You okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah." How long does this stuff take? I'm convinced I'm still tripping on marijuana, and I'm telling them all that. I'm tripping on marijuana. It's Christmas. I'm going to
I
get
mean, did
back
they
to my
make fun of you for
family.
saying tripping on marijuana at least?
They got really worried. All of it really worried them. But they were like, they would giggle and joke about it a little bit. But I could tell that they were freaked out. And one of them almost like slept over, but it wasn't really a place for them to sleep over. So he said, "Well, I'll see you tomorrow," and just kind of closes the door. And I just walk around this little 1-bedroom apartment and just look at shit for hours, waiting for just kind of like open drawers, and there's stuff, and there's pictures of me with some of the guys that were on the boat, and there's yearbooks that I look through, and they have pictures that aren't me, of me in these yearbooks, of a high school life that I had in Tyler, Texas, and just mementos and tchotchkes and camping gear and just shit that I would own, but I didn't own any of that. And I just kind of like nod off on the couch and wake up to pounding on my door the next morning. And one of the friends from before, it's like, "Hey, you didn't show up for work. You okay? You okay? You okay? Stand up. You look okay. All right. You feel okay? All right. Go get dressed. I'm going to take you back to work." So he loads me into his truck and takes me to work just kind of down the street at this big farm where you work for this family that owns a giant, hundreds of acres of orchards for apples, and we basically supervise migrant labor during this time of the year.
What?
Yeah, and take care of the farm in the wintertime and stuff like that. And they had a whole thing where they make cider and shit like that, apparently. But like shows me this job that I have and gives me a clipboard, and it's my job that day to make sure count how many forklift things full of apples get loaded into each truck and shit like that. And I just stand there with a bemused look on my face and tell everybody I can that I live in Alaska and it's Christmas and I smoke some marijuana. And how long does this last? It seems like it's lasting a really long time. So I just stand there with a bemused look on my face, and my friends kind of cover for me and tell the farm owner, like, "Hey, he got his bell rung this weekend. He's gonna be fine. It's just the doctor says it'll come back to him." So friends dropped me off at my house at the end of that day, and that just goes on for 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
You have 8 years worth of memories living in Tyler, Texas, working on this farm.
Yeah.
You didn't have a family, right? You just had your 1-bedroom
No.
apartment. Separate group of friends.
Had a bunch of dude friends, and some of them had girlfriends, but yeah. And just worked at this farm, and I would, I knew that I had smoked something that had made me come there.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew who I really was. I was Steve Cantwell. I was in witness protection in Alaska. I just built my own house with my own bare hands, and I was in the gun room of my special forces best friend, and he was helping me experiment with drugs that were taboo, and but the problem is they had the internet at this point a little bit enough where you could look up shit, at least like newspaper articles, like the trial was in the newspaper and all this stuff. So there was no trace of me anywhere. So there was no trace of the murder trial. There was no trace of my dad, or like the town that I grew up in looked completely different, than the way I had remembered it. And there was like no trace of me anywhere, but there was trace of me in this living in Tyler.
Right.
And everybody in Tyler had known me my entire life.
Were you still
and
Mormon?
Had known my family.
No.
I was not Mormon, but I had perfect knowledge of everything that was Mormon, and that used to freak my friends out. So I would tell this story to them. I would be like, they would like at parties, they would be like, "Hey, tell them who you really are.
Tell about the
And I
Mormon
would tell
stuff,
them,
about the witness
yeah,
protection.
yeah. And they would get out. My friend had one of those cheapy giveaway copies of the Book of Mormon that he had gotten somewhere, and he would have me quote like chapter and verse out of this thing, and people would ask me questions about the Mormon Church, and I was unfucking stumpable. And they told me, and they're like, "I've known you your entire life, bro. You have never been Mormon. You know, we went to elementary, junior high, and high school together. There's no chance that you were nothing. You were Episcopalian, if anything.
Did you have extended family that you were introduced to?
I had my parents and my sister both apparently died in a car accident, like not long after I got out of high school, and so I just kind of had been living in an apartment that was owned by the farm and working at this farm, and that's just kind of where I landed when my family died. But I didn't remember any of that. But everybody in town remembered that. Yeah. And people would come up to me in the grocery store and treat me like I was brain damaged. Just be like, you know, I know you don't remember me, but my name is Susan, and we were in elementary school together, and your sister and my sister were friends, and honey, I heard about your water skiing accident, and we're all just praying for you, and God bless you. And I would hug them and just be like, I'm not crazy. I just, for the first half of it, probably.
For the first 4 years, you mean?
Yeah, for the first 4 years, I was like, no, I thought maybe I had died. I thought maybe I was in a coma. This is what it was like as a coma.
Maybe it was heaven, Steve.
I considered killing myself to get back to Alaska, or what. I didn't know how to make myself stop having this trip, is what I called it. But I hardly hung out with my friends. They would have to come over and make me hang out with them, because I would just keep to myself and just on the internet and just, constantly trying to figure out what the fuck had happened.
Trying to find the old you. Did you date at all or anything?
No, I had a crush on a lady, but I never did anything about it. I was just too obsessed. I considered myself married still, and that I was married for time and all eternity. I've been married at that point for 21 years, to the chick that I met in the Eskimo Village, and had 4 kids. And I just desperately, missed my family. It's a long time to go without seeing your family. And I just didn't know what was happening to me. Thought maybe I was in a coma or dead or something. So, because you think, maybe the God's wrath, and I would look up stuff about the Mormon Church, and my memories of how everything was with the Mormon Church were perfect. That was kind of how I would prove to myself that I knew that, because I knew so much about the Mormon Church, that could prove to me that has really happened, because there's no explainable reason why I would have big hunks of the Book of Mormon memorized and all this arcane doctrine that we ascribe to, and memories of the temple ceremonies and things like that. So, but then that kind of kicked back on me, because that was the first time I ever researched the Mormon Church on the internet without somebody looking over my shoulder.
Really?
And so, and especially some of the temple stuff is where it started, the threads, because because the temple stuff is like secret to us.
Right.
But if you research stuff on the internet, everything's there. So that led me to kind of like look in places that weren't necessarily the Mormon Church version of the way everything happened. And that is how I slowly, over the course of years, walked myself back from Mormonism, to where I stepped into that gun room fully doubting nothing, never looked into it, never, because that's what Satan wanted you to do. But stuck in my trip, I felt safe to just look at everything. And when I looked at everything, if you look at everything and you really look, you will figure it out.
You start seeing those inconsistencies and
yes,
the stuff
all
just,
that shit.
yeah.
Yes. all that shit didn't happen 2,000 years ago. It happened in the 1800s when there was full, newspaper accounts of everything. And so you read all of that and you will tell yourself a completely different story. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm in a cult. And then you grieve the death of your God, and you realize you've wasted your whole fucking life, and you realize, oh my God, I was just so horny, I married the girl in an Eskimo village, and now I have to live like an animal in Alaska because I'm afraid of, my business partner escaping from prison, so I've fucked my life. And I had kind of like a midlife crisis in Tyler, Texas, and just kind of like, talked myself out of being Mormon and told myself that maybe I did have brain damage. Maybe I had imagined everything. If everyone in town is telling me that they have known me my whole life, if there's photographic evidence of me living my whole life in this town, and if there's no evidence of me in this other thing, then the whole thing is just a big it's an artifact from a water skiing accident.
Right.
That's a head scratcher and a funny story. So once I just kind of embraced that I was brain damaged, I started hanging out with my friends more. We started doing stuff, and I kind of opened myself up to life a little bit more, because I was like, I tried, now when I would see people at the grocery store, they were like, you don't remember me, my name is Susan. I'd be like, I don't remember you, but tell me who you are and I'll remember you. And then I would make a point when I saw her again, I would be, hi Susan, I still don't remember you, but I love you, and just, you just get to be part of the community a little, and not having to worry about being Mormon anymore is a huge, load off. And you go through all the shit where you're, wonder what really is going on in the world, if anything. And, you wonder about why you used to think that you were Mormon, and wasn't that crazy? And gosh, I wonder what about my personality made me imagine such an extravagant fantasy life for myself. Oh, I was living in witness protection. I built a house out on my own. Ooh, a bear ate my friend's baby. Like all of that. I'm like, what about me? I was starting to I would pick apart that and be like, why did I make that up, of all things? That just seems I wonder what that says about me psychologically, kind of thing.
Right.
Played in a cover band, played the ukulele in a cover band. I knew how to play the ukulele when I got there. There was one on the couch. Never played the ukulele before. There was one on the couch in my apartment. When they dropped me off, I picked it up and my fingers knew where to go. And I still know how to play the ukulele. I don't know how to read music or what any of the chords names are or anything like that, but my fingers know about 15 chords or something, and a bunch of like Billy Joel songs and shit like that. So it's just it just came.
You played ukulele in a Billy Joel cover band?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And one day I was walking across the park and had a bucket of chicken in my arm, could see my friends in the distance playing hacky sack and shit. And then just the grass opened up, like a hole opened up, just like it had happened at my friend's house. I fell through this hole, and then there was this brief sensation of falling, and then there was a spinning sensation, and I fell up into my body on the floor of that gun room, and my ex-wife was behind me, holding my head, going, wait, hang up, I think he's okay. And I was having a full-on seizure. And then it just like calms down. And I was like, and the world was spinning. And then I felt it lock into place where I was spinning at the same rate as the world. And then it all stopped spinning. That was the exact sensation of coming back into my body.
What the hell?
And my army friend was standing there with a phone in his hand, literally had dialed like 911, and he hangs up the phone because he's gonna have to explain why, his friend OD'd in his basement, kind of thing. And then my wife and he's like, has he ever had any kind of seizures before? And she's like, no, this is the first time. And so I immediately burst into tears and just tell them both this story. And he's like, okay, shut the fuck up. Like, our kids are upstairs opening presents. You keep your voice down, okay? I haven't seen them in 8 years, and my kids can hear me crying on the other end. And they're like, "What's wrong with Daddy?" And I'm like, "Pepper, come here!" And I'm trying to call them, and then he's pushing them out of the. He's like, he closed it, and he's like, "Hey, you got to get yourself together, or you'll get me in trouble with my wife."
Freaking out, man.
So he's like, "You're freaking out. Shut the fuck up." Okay. He's like, I don't know that I want to go second, first of all.
On second thought, I don't think I should do this.
And they're up there making Christmas dinner for us. The total elapsed time, by the way, like, I forget, like a minute, 90 seconds, something like that. Enough time for him to go, Julia, have her run downstairs and get the phone and start to dial 911. But I mean, that's how long I was on the floor having a seizure. That felt like every minute of 8 days to me.
So that minute and a half was the only
or
time
whatever,
you were out, whatever it was. And that was 8 years in Tyler, Texas.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Yeah. 8 years of working in a farm, insomnia, crying about your kids that you thought that you imagined, it is, 8 years, hard, quitting your religion, grieving the death of your God. It was a full 8 years of self-reflection. I walked into that gun room a Mormon and walked out an atheist.
Wow, dude. Okay, so all of that carried over immediately. And you could still play the ukulele.
Yes, I could still play the ukulele. So my wife, I tell her this. She's like, "Shut the fuck up! I've pissed myself, right? Obviously, I'm laying in a puddle of piss on the floor. So my friend goes and gets me some banana pajama pants. Okay. He's like, here, pee pants. Go across the door. Take a shower over there. Get these clothes on and come up for fucking Christmas dinner." So my wife trundles me into this bathroom, stands there and talks to me, and I'm just talking a million miles a minute, telling her this fucking story of what happened. I thought I imagined you, and I thought I imagined the kids, and it was real. It was just like now, and there's no God. There's no God whatsoever. So I'm just rambling on all of this shit, and she's just like, I can't believe you have ruined Christmas. Basically, you're embarrassing me in front of the neighbors. You pissed all over the floor in there. What the fuck is wrong with you? And I get, like, I'm still so out of it. I get out of the shower and I'm drying off and I wipe between my legs and I realize I've also shit myself. Oh, and so I smear shit all over their back. I'm telling you. So take another shower. Anyway, so get myself together, come upstairs in borrowed clothes to my gorgeous family sitting in front of a picturesque window and with a big Christmas dinner on it. And there's like snow outside in the background, and they're all, "Are you okay?" And I just lose it. I just lose it. I'm like falling on them, weeping and trying to keep myself under control at the Christmas dinner table at my neighbor's house. And my friend, his wife is mad at him for she like quasi blames him for talking the nice Mormon couple into doing drugs. I think he's giving me acid or something like that. But like he's still trying to, like, it's not his fault really. He doesn't know it was a hallucinogen that I smoked. But they are normal people, so they must suspect that there's a hallucinogen at play. So I weep my way through Christmas dinner, petting my kids' heads, crying, because I haven't seen them in 8 years. Right. Thought they were not just dead, but never existed, and it's Christmas. It feels like a Christmas Carol movie or something like that, because it's just like, it's Christmas, Mr. Scrooge. And it's like I didn't miss the day. No time went by. I had this huge epiphany of my life, that was going to change everything. And we immediately, after Christmas, called a real estate friend of mine. I said, I want to sell my house. I want to sell it today. I'll take any cash offer because money's not real and we're not here.
Wow, dude. You're having an existential crisis at this moment.
Yeah. So the day after Christmas, called my friend who was a realtor, and he's like, I'll have a call back to you in an hour. So, and then I called, and I didn't own a mortgage on it. So I didn't have to, I owned it outright because I built it myself. And then my business that I owned up there, I owned that outright. I didn't have any. So I put an ad on Craigslist and I sold my business in 13 hours or some shit like that. Yeah. I was just like, and then we took that money and the money that we had saved for retirement and rainy days and all the money from the house and the money from the business. And we just moved to Hawaii.
Hawaii, of all places, that's where you decide to go.
I bought 2 sailboats and I moved my family onto the sailboats. And I was like, there's no God. This might be a simulation. And we're not Mormon anymore. So it's going to freak my family out. But I just want to let you all know that this is not real. So here's some sailboats. And we're all gonna live on the sailboats in the nicest part of the simulation. Why shovel snow?
Absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more.
Snow.
Yeah, if none of this is real, well, let's at least go to paradise for our fake lives.
And they're like, and then we don't have to go to church anymore. It's like, nope, no more church. None of that was real. That was all just a cult that we were in, and Daddy figured it out on the floor of Carl's gun room, and just kidding about all that Mormon stuff. So, dude, that's what happened.
I mean, it's so wild because you think about both stories, right? And this is what we were kind of alluding to earlier. Your quote unquote real life, being a Mormon, owning the janitorial business, moving to Alaska, marrying your Eskimo wife, having to go to witness protection because of this serial killer that you were business partners with. There's that, which is your supposedly real life, versus this very bland normal life that you lived for 8 years in Tyler, Texas. I mean, you think about which one sounds more unbelievable. It's your real life.
It's the one I can prove.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the one in Tyler, Texas, that seems way more realistic. I mean, you couldn't prove your Mormon life in the Tyler, Texas simulation, and you can't prove your Tyler, Texas life in the Mormon simulation. So you're just, I mean, dude, I totally understand why you had to just get away from everything, move out to Hawaii in the sailboats, because I think, I mean, existential crisis probably doesn't even begin to describe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
And I would just lay out there on a little dinghy on the ocean in the middle of the night and take as many mushrooms as I could fit in my stomach. And just stare at the sky. And I was literally trying to come down off of thinking that I knew the answers to how all the whole universe worked, and realizing I know nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people think there is no universe and that this all might be a fucking trip, because this doesn't feel any more real than that felt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why should I believe that this is real?
That's my whole thing. Like, that's why it freaks me out so bad. And by the way, I've done Salvia before. Didn't have anywhere close to the experience you did, but then again, I also didn't shotgun it through a bong at 100 times.
It wasn't also the first drug you had ever tried.
Okay, that's also a good
the first
point.
Smoke of any kind that had ever gone into my virgin baby girl lungs. I didn't even drink coffee at this time in my life, or tea. It was tap water and, the occasional glass of milk.
Wow, dude. I mean, yeah, I guess from that perspective, maybe it would have hit you a little harder than the normal person, but still, I had like I had a weird trip when I did it, But you
Yeah,
were
what happened?
gone for 8 years over the course of 90 seconds.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just switch timelines for a little bit.
Just change channels
Yeah,
for a little
you
while.
ran through an
And
interdimensional
also,
portal.
I never really came back because that guy that existed before that Christmas, that guy never existed again. My life is, I'm a comic now,
Yeah.
you know, and we lived on sailboats, and we had this whole crazy adventure in Hawaii that was nothing. There was nothing. I started doing comedy. I started not caring about money. I realized that money wasn't real. I just, you know, that guy is nothing like the paranoid, not masturbating kid that went into that gun room.
Right.
That guy's dead.
Yeah, he's gone.
I'm living 3 different lives.
Wow. I mean, when you put it that way, it's almost like you've switched simulations 3 times now.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's just so mind-blowing. And I have so many questions. There's so much more I want to talk about, from, these safe thieves to the serial killer. I want to know more about your life in Tyler, Texas. And I think what we could do probably is a live stream where folks can ask you questions about your experience as well. And also,
Sure.
share if they've experienced anything similar. Cause I'm sure this can't be like an isolated incident that only you've had this
Yeah.
experience.
Well, you know, Ari Shafir had something happen to him that was similar. He believed he lived in a world where it was just like this world, but everybody was underwater. And he lived there for a long
Like
time.
Aquaman?
Yeah, like sea monkeys.
Huh.
Like the well, I don't know. Yeah, and he knew, and like he would swim up to the edge of the water and look sometimes and see his friends that were, I don't know, but it was long and involved and lived in a whole other world. I also knew somebody that had a salvia trip where they thought that they were a coat of paint on a barn for like 50 years, like felt like the cracking and weathering and the boredom and just like the madness of sitting there and
What?
not being able to move, and the cold of the winter and the hot of the summer. And he said it was like the most excruciating thing that they've ever
How long was
done.
he out for? Do you remember?
Like, I don't know, I forget. But look at
Whoa.
people on Salvia. Sometimes it with your sense of time,
Yeah.
so it can do something really weird, and make it seem like it lasts a long time, which is a head trip, because your brain must work so fast that it can seem like it's working at normal speed,
Yeah.
even when the whole mental universe is going into a warp drive
Right.
to be able to do that. Because was like, it was just like here, like you would have time to think, you would have time to worry about shit and ponder shit. It wasn't like it was abbreviated in any way.
But also time is an illusion. So, I
Yes.
mean, it makes perfect sense to me. Even though it freaks me out, it does make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I would love to do a live stream, get some thoughts from some of the audience, and just see if anyone's had a similar experience or has questions. In the
Yeah.
meantime, where can people follow you, Steve? Where can they go and look up your comedy, hear more about your story?
The Steve Cantwell on Instagram.
Okay. You have any other socials? Just that one?
Oh,
You got any shows coming up,
kind of a
man?
hurt.
I know you're in
Kind of a
Houston
hermit.
now.
Yeah. So I do shows all the time in Houston and all the areas surrounding Houston. I go to Austin pretty regularly, and yeah, ran into you in Austin just
I
recently at
know, dude.
outside the mothership. Yeah.
Completely accidental, which
Yeah.
once again is everything's a simulation,
That's right.
Yeah.
The whole thing doesn't render until you look at it. So it's a crazy thing. You think about it, Davey. What you and me do is a weird, rare thing.
Yeah.
Most of the universe, the thought of having to speak publicly is terrifying to them. They rank it right up there with fear of death.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's with not even the expectation that you have to be funny. funny enough that they can charge people to listen to you talk. Funny enough that if you talk while I'm talking, they will throw you fucking out of this place. Yeah. And so you think about the rarity of the people that we know, and we're all this, when you're a comic, you have mostly comic friends, mm-hmm. and so it feels like everybody in the world's a comic, but that's not true. We are the copper canary. We are the rarest of all things. We are rare and beautiful things. So appreciate that about yourself, Davey.
Man.
We're magical rainbows.
Yeah. Magical rainbows that aren't actually real.
Not even
just
real.
Floating through this life that is completely meaningless and empty. Except for the stories we tell ourselves.
Yeah, if this is a simulation, you and I have chosen good things to simulate.
I mean, yes, I am very, very happy with my simulation, and I'm very happy that you are also a part of my simulation, Steve.
Thank you, sir.
So y'all follow Steve. We'll be back with a live stream. Hopefully just in a couple days, maybe next week we'll jump back on. But thank y'all so much, and we will see you next week. Bye.